March 2nd.
Liberty and justice.
Thank you. Ms. Jackie, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mayor. Mayor Velardo?
Here.
Vice Mayor Evans?
Here.
Ms. Russell?
Here.
Mr. Mitchell?
Here.
Mr. Redmond?
Here.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Here.
Mr. Haskins?
Here.
Thank you. We actually have a very full agenda tonight. We've got some really nice presentations, so we're going to start with those first. At this time, I would like to start by introducing Mr. John Spicer with our Milford school system. He is our new superintendent, and we have invited him today. If you wouldn't mind sitting up to the podium. We've invited him today because he is new, and maybe you know him, maybe you don't, but I thought this would be a great opportunity for you get to meet him with all of us. If you're following us on Facebook Live, let us know. Hit that like button. If you have any questions for anybody that we can answer for you, we'll be happy to do so. We'll try to catch up on those in the public comment section. Mr. Spicer, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be your superintendent, and looking forward to being here more often. I do have not necessarily a presentation. I know that I'm probably standing between you and dinner, so I do have some talking points that I wanted to cover this evening, and hopefully we'll take about 10 minutes or less, if that's good.
Sure.
So again, thank you, Mayor, council members, for having me. Educating during a pandemic is certainly been a topic for us, and it has been like building an airplane on the fly, and that's kind of what June, July, and August, and even part of September was for us. And so we're very proud of the fact that our teachers, nurses, secretaries, custodians, maintenance crew, our mental health staff, our students, our parents, everyone, the entire greater school community, they have been really leaning into this work every single day. It's not been anything that's been easy for anyone. But I think most importantly, what I wanted to share with you about teaching and educating during a pandemic is that I'm most proud of our return to learning plan, and that was that we gave families an option. And so families had an option to either send their students 5 days a week in person, or they had an option to do what we call Eagle Online or remote learning. First semester, we had about 75% of our students come in person. And of course, 25% were at home, Eagle Online. And then we asked in November, actually it was right before Halloween, we asked for families to make another decision, make another commitment for another semester. And we're up to 80%, and I should have checked the number before I came in this evening, but it's probably a little bit higher than 80% because we've reached out to some families, and we just felt that in-person learning would be best for their students. So we're very pleased, very happy with that effort. Most importantly, I think what's important is with the option is that we know that our best work with students and families is in person. But I don't want to discount the fact that our Eagle Online teachers have been nothing but short of amazing in the work that they've done. It's not as simple as turning on a camera and then trying to teach students at home. So I want you to know that the amazing work that they're doing as well. They have found different ways that they can meet with our students and try to build those relationships with them. So we're very proud of that. One thing that I had mentioned back in January when I did a Facebook Live event is that the decisions that we make, they're not made in isolation. They're not made in a vacuum, and these are especially COVID-related decisions. I agonize over whether or not to close the high school before Thanksgiving because of our case numbers, the number of students in quarantine, and the number of staff that were in quarantine. And what we found out at that point was that there's a tipping point. You know, there's only so many subs right now, sub shortage for sure. There was a sub shortage before COVID, and there's certainly a teacher sub shortage now. And so we found that tipping point at the high school especially to be around 12 to 15 staff members. So that could be whether they were on sick leave, a personal day, or if they were quarantined due to COVID. So once we got to about 15 and we could project how long they might be out because of that quarantine, we had to shut down. Same thing happened again, not so much staff related in January at the high school, but we just had too many kids. There were too many cases. And so we thought it was best to just kind of shut it down, give it some time, and we've been great ever since. So I'm appreciative of our families and our staff through this time. What I think is also important is to know that we've tried to make what I'll call surgical closings. So we had some specific classrooms that we've had to close down for that. It's typically not the full 14 because we find out a few days after they've been tested. So when we would try to shut them down for the, quote, 14 days, so we've been trying to be very surgical about those shutdowns and not shutting down an entire school if we could. High school's a different animal. So that I wanted you to know. If I may get a little political about state testing, you know, I think as educators, we were hoping that the president coming in would not have standardized testing. And so the Ohio Department of Ed got their letter last week from the president that said there will be standardized testing. My political soapbox is it's a waste of time and definitely a waste of money. I think that there are better things that money could be spent on. However, we're ready. Our staff is ready and our students are ready. Again, we've been teaching in person and online very well since August, so we're not afraid of what those results will be like at all. Very confident in our staff and our students. So that's my political piece for tonight.
There might be a couple people
Agree.
that I agree with you out there.
100%.
Thank you.
I teach.
Thank
I
you.
get it.
You know, it really is mind-boggling to me. I really didn't think we would be doing standardized testing, and again, we're not afraid of it. We want accountability, but right now it doesn't seem like it's the right time. So, with that, I wanted to kind of shift a little bit to CARES Act money. We, as a district, last year did receive $491,000 in CARES Act dollars, and a lot of that money did go to the obvious: sanitizer, electrostatic sprayers, but also staff. We had to hire more staff in order to take our current staff members and move them, especially in the elementary schools, to the Eagle Online mode of instruction. So a lot of that money was used there as well. Coming into this year, we are slated to receive about $1.7 million for CARES Act money, and so we're actually going to meet tomorrow to have a further centered discussion about what those dollars can be used for and potentially will be used for at the school district. So that kind of leads me into our financial status, and that is, you know, maybe you've gotten a phone call. You know, we have hired someone to do some surveying about what the community's palette would be for a bond issue. May repeat, there's been no decisions made about a bond issue being placed on the ballot in November. That's the soonest it could go on. So the Board of Education will have to make a decision in the coming months about what they want to do with that. What I think is important for many people to know is that our students at the junior high school deserve better, and so do our staff members. When they're competing in a world market, this building is expired. It has served its purpose, and it is time for, in my opinion, for the community to fund a new middle school. It would be a 6 through 8 middle school. The last operating levy that was passed for the Milford schools was in May of 2013, was projected to last 4 years, and we've made it last this long, and we are projecting at least a couple more years. The one thing I would like to say about that is, if the board decides to put a bond issue on the ballot in November, Pass or fail, the district will be back for a levy in 1 to 2 years from November. So unless, there's another soapbox, unless school funding changes, which is this mystical formula that no one can really seem to understand except for maybe school treasurers, every school district will be back every 3 to 4 years asking for a new levy of sorts. So, you know, I think it's important for the community to know that the district has been fiscally responsible. We will continue to be fiscally responsible. We will look for reductions. We're not going to enforce anybody, nothing of that nature, but we are going to look to continue our reductions. And the reason I say that is because the district is deficit spending now. Most people don't necessarily know what deficit spending means. It just means that we're spending more money than what's coming in. And we are able to supplement that with what I will call our savings. So we have a savings account that's large enough that will get us through the next couple of years. But this year we are in deficit spending, even with the 491 and the 1.7 million. So I just want the community to know that we're being very transparent about what the school's needs are. The expenditures for the last 3 years in the district have gone up about 3.79%. Inflation is about 2%. So I don't think that we are overspending or we're wild about our spending, and we've been very fiscally responsible and will continue to be. Which again, I've already touched about facilities. That was another talking point, and I only have one more after that. Is, you know, again, we really need a new middle school for our students, a 6 through 8 building on the current site. So whether or not that's on the November ballot, we'll know in the next month or two, and the board will make that decision. And if that happens, of course, there would be community involvement, you know, design phase, et cetera. So there'd be a mass community effort to get input. So that's facilities. Our strategic plan and Portrait of an Eagle, I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Nancy House, our former superintendent, started that process with Patel for Kids, and we had community input as well. And from that strategic plan, we do have 5 goals. Goal 1 is communication. Goal 2 is culture. Goal 3 is student success. Goal 4 is learning environments. And Goal 5 is finances. Our communication goal is set. It's ready to go, and it is will be ready for publication, if you will, soon. Next year, the district goal for everyone will be culture. We're going to work on our school culture and climate. So Portrait of an Eagle is something that you're going to hear us talk about a lot, and that lives in Goal 3, which is student success. And if I may, with community input, we came up with the 3 objectives for student success would be creative, I gotta put these glasses on, sorry, creative innovators, confident learners, information evaluators, effective communicators and purposeful collaborators, and then critical thinkers. And so we'll have a nice graphic, but not quite ready for publication, still in draft form. But this will be our living document, and this is something that you're going to hear a lot from me and from others about the Portrait of an Eagle and what that looks like for our students K to 12 and what we want them to be as they graduate from Milford. So with that, again, I know I'm between you and dinner, so what questions can I answer, or I can go sit down?
We're used to not having dinner on Tuesdays. I got to say, you know, your job is challenging enough in a normal year, but you throw COVID into your situation, and it's like playing whack-a-mole every single day. It's not to be made light of. I'm really not making light of it.
It
but
is. No, you're right. It is. I know you're not making light of it, but that's what it feels like. Every day is something different. It's COVID related. Everyone asks that, well, what were you thinking? I'm like, well, I knew what I was signing up for, but
Sure.
every day is something new.
Yeah.
And you just shake your head sometimes, and you just go with it.
But you and the staff have done a yeoman's job with what you've had to work with and keeping these kids in school and educating them to the best of your ability. And all that you guys do for these kids outside of school. I don't think it's talked about enough on the outreach and, you know, what you do above and beyond your job description.
Thank you. Community outreach doesn't happen with just us. It is everyone else in the community, and we have many great partners. I don't want to name just a few because there's just so many of
Right.
them, but we all know who they are. And
Sure.
that community outreach doesn't happen without them, and we're just honored to be a part of that as well, and that's just what we do. It's just part of what we do.
Yeah. I don't know how you fix the funding. I just don't know what you do.
Yeah, I mean,
I
even,
just don't know what we do about that.
there's some legislation now that it doesn't really help us. There's a lot of talk about this new formula and how great it is, but it's pretty flat. It makes Milford flat. We're considered a rich district, and we all know that we're not a wealthy district. We're just doing our thing, and so yeah, I don't know how to. The only thing I can recommend is that you continue to talk to and email your state legislators. That's all we can do is talk to them and ask them to fix school funding.
Mr. Dawson and I were in a meeting on Saturday with our Clermont County Mayor's Association, and Representative Adam Byrd was there, and the topic of schools and funding and everything else came up, and yeah. What do you do? Anybody have any questions?
Just thank you for your time. It really is nice to hear from the school and to come to present. I mean, it's not just for the 7 of us. You're speaking to a bunch of people watching and listening who will watch this days afterwards. And I think it was really important that you emphasize the things that are needed, that are coming up. And hopefully you can come back again to continue to emphasize on the things that we can work together to make the school better.
Will do. Thank you.
Anybody? Yeah, I agree. You are always welcome here.
Thank
If you just want to come and say something really quick, just so it gets out there on this medium, then you are always welcome here.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes.
And you are not required to say the whole meeting. I understand that you go to meetings all the time. If you would like to go have Tuesday dinner.
I did roll in at 7:30. I'll stay for at least the police department.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next on my agenda presentation is a presentation from Chief Mills. He's got the annual report. And Chief, I'm not being rude, but has anybody checked social media? I feel like we're looking at an old meeting.
I'm on. I don't see any activity in terms of comments.
I see, and I'm on it. I mean,
Is
the video's live.
it
Yeah,
live?
it's live, yeah. There's like
Okay,
37
for some
people
reason,
watching.
I'm looking at a video from February the 16th. I'm not able to
Not unless you
find.
wore the same outfit.
What?
Not unless you wore the same outfit.
I didn't, okay, as long as somebody has it, because I don't have it. Okay, now you have my undivided attention.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I appreciate the opportunity to present the 2020 Milford Police Department Annual Report. The annual report serves as a yearly summary of department data, statistical information, and metrics that allow us to measure the effectiveness of our deliverable services. My presentation tonight will focus on the critical functions of our operation. However, the full report is available on our website at milfordohio.org. To say it was a rough year would be an understatement. An election that included an unprecedented pandemic, tornadic winds, and racial unrest was a challenge. However, as usual, the men and women of the Milford Police Department rose to that challenge and provided our community with excellence in policing by doing the right thing at the right time, in the right way, and for the right reason. As the world watched the COVID-19 virus spread, we found ourselves adapting to changes on a daily basis, responding to violations of laws and orders we never imagined. Delivering thermometers and serving cease and desist orders became our new norm. Mayor Velardo reminded us to remain socially distant while emotionally connected. We participated in birthday and graduation parades, broadcasted live Facebook videos, and provided virtual tours. When personal protective equipment became scarce, our residents and businesses supported us with donations. We tightened our budget by canceling trainings and purchases to prepare for an economic downturn. Area police administrators committed to assisting each other in the event of widespread staffing shortages. However, as summer approached, we felt a sense that the storm was passing. But on May 25th, the world watched an event unfold that would spread faster than COVID. The actions of officers 724 miles away threatened one of our most precious commodities, public trust. We appreciated the outpouring of support and praise from residents who supported us, and we accepted every question from concerned citizens. We gave answers, had meaningful conversations, but mostly we listened. We had our most diverse Citizens Police Academy yet. We switched to a national testing company for recruiting. We raised funds for the American Cancer Society and Toys for Tots through our No Shave November and December, and we received a 98% approval rating on our citizen survey for 2020. As you'll see from this report, the results and hard work of the dedicated staff are undeniable. Last March, though, we implemented limited contact policies and procedures to help limit the spread of COVID. Those necessary precautions led to significant reductions in our officer-initiated statistics, as you'll see. We patrolled over 123,000 miles last year. We had 25 hours of in-service training. That was a reduction of 31%. We wrote 6,359 reports, a reduction of 8%. Made 400 arrests, down 45%. Conducted 2,782 traffic stops, down 21%. Investigated 224 accidents, a reduction of 20%. And issued 2,125 citations, a reduction of 23%. If you'll note, the direct relationship between traffic stops, represented by the red and green lines, and auto accidents, represented by the blue line, you'll see that as we reduced contact with the public in April, auto accidents had a temporary spike. After that, they leveled off, which we believe is attributed to the governor's stay-at-home order. But it does show the correlation between traffic enforcement and auto accidents. And after 7 years of declining, Part 1 crimes increased very slightly. As you notice, Part 1 crimes are homicide, rape, robbery, burglary, larceny, which is theft, auto theft, and assault. That's almost solely due to an increase in thefts, which we believe are possibly a result of the mask mandate inside retail locations. We had a pretty good spike in thefts last year. Any questions so far? Response to resistance, also referred to as use of force, is the highest liability function in our operation. Because it falls into the low-frequency, high-risk category, we consistently train our officers on de-escalation tactics, case law updates, and tactics for taking a resistant subject into custody as safely as possible. Whenever an officer uses force or even displays a weapon, his or her actions are reviewed by at least 2 levels of command. And annually, I conduct an analysis to identify any patterns or trends that would indicate a need for a policy change and/or additional training. Last year, sworn officers arrested or detained 3,182 people. The 4 instances where we were forced to use force indicates that 99.975% of the time, our officers accomplished their objective without any use of force. This falls well within the FBI parameters of using force on 1% of all arrested or detained persons. I found no consistent variable in terms of officer involved, suspect, location, or race that would indicate an identifiable trend or causative factors for concern. The following data was extracted from my annual analysis. There were no complaints filed as a result of response to resistance. 2 of the incidents only involved an officer displaying their sidearm as a precaution. All of the incidents involved a crime in progress. All of the suspects were actively resisting in cases where force was used by the officer. 2 of the incidents involved an assault on a police officer. 3 of the incidents involved Caucasian suspects. All of the incidents involved male suspects. The average age involved in a use of force was 38. 1 of the incidents involved a suspect under the influence of alcohol or drugs. All of the incidents occurred on night shift, which is 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. None of the incidents occurred at the same location, and no single officer had a disproportionate use of force. Any questions on response to resistance? Traffic pursuits are another high-risk, low-frequency practice and therefore must be closely scrutinized. Milford police officers may initiate an emergency vehicle pursuit whenever a law violator clearly exhibits the intention of avoiding arrest by using a vehicle to flee and elude an officer. However, a justified pursuit occurs only when the necessity of apprehension outweighs the level of danger created by the pursuit. An administrative review is completed by the officer's supervisor after each pursuit to determine if it was within policy and to address equipment and training needs. The administrative review is forwarded to the assistant chief and myself for final approval. Of particular note, in the last 5 years, we've terminated 73% of pursuits in the interest of traffic safety. In 2020, there were only 2 traffic pursuits. One driver surrendered within 1.5 miles, and the other pursuit was terminated by Sergeant Lane twice in the same shift. Yes, you heard that correctly. The audio will start when he gets to the exit ramp here. This is 8:13 p.m. last January. Sergeant Lane is attempting to stop a speeding motorist on 275. He's exiting at 28. And yes, police officers do listen to music occasionally.
Township, Clermont County had a vehicle refusing to stop. It was a red Chevy 2500. Plate was Frankie and Frank. Last seen on Old State Route 28 near scene 75. I am not. I stopped due to traffic conditions. Near Romar Drive and scene 75. Vehicle almost caused 2 accidents.
Now, he's the supervisor of the shift. I think this is important to hear what the officers say.
What's with you? That's like 3 in 3 months. Wait till you watch this video. He almost caused 2 crashes.
So again, that was around 8:13 p.m. At 8:21 p.m., Miami Township PD received a complaint about a red Chevy operating recklessly on 131. And about 4 minutes later, Sergeant Lane spots that truck again back in the city on Lila Avenue.
That's the truck. Where is it at? We're evening to that red truck in question is back on the Milford Parkway, trying to catch up to it. It's approaching 400 block. Where did you say it was? It's approaching Chapin Drive. Okay. On the Milford Parkway, southbound for right 275. Looks like he's going back to 50. Terminate.
get a plate by going back over to US-50 right at 131. Yeah, I don't know where he went. He's gone.
That driver wreaked havoc across Clermont County for the next hour, but Sergeant Lane was able to subsequently identify and charge the driver and exemplified the adages of discretion is the better part of valor and leadership by example. I was very proud of him for leading by example. Are there any questions about traffic pursuits? I realize it is a current topic. You may have noticed in the news recently, we're part of the Hamilton County Police Chiefs Association and did a citizen survey. We are reviewing our policy. We do that every so often. And there are some chiefs that have no pursuit policies and some chiefs that let their officers chase without hesitation. I like to be somewhere in the middle and trust my officers to make the right decision. Like I mentioned earlier, last 5 years we've terminated 73% of the pursuits. If it's not safe for us, if it doesn't justify the danger that's created, we will cancel them.
Yeah, I commend him for that, because that would be incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, it's hard, and it takes discipline, but it is the right thing to do. Okay. Moving on, one of the most important functions administered through my office is that of internal affairs. As a contemporary police agency, we engage in high liability activities with the corresponding need to maintain the integrity of our operations and ethical conduct of our members. It's our policy to investigate all complaints and allegations in a manner that will assure the community of prompt corrective action in the event of employee misconduct, while at the same time protecting our employees from unwarranted criticism pursuant to the proper discharge of their duties. In 2020, there were 2 investigations as a result of a citizen complaint and 2 internal complaints that were initiated by a member of command staff. The low ratio of complaints compared to the thousands of contacts initiated by our department employees indicates an extremely low frequency of complaints. And we are completely transparent. We follow up with every complainant, and we publish in our annual report every year the number of complaints and the findings. Any questions on internal affairs? A fundamental right guaranteed by both the U.S. and Ohio constitutions is the Equal Protection Clause. Everyone, citizen and alien alike, is entitled to walk, drive, and move about in public free from police interference so long as they obey the law. Those who commit infractions must receive equal and fair treatment regardless of their race, color, ethnicity, sex, sexual orientation, physical handicap, religion, or other belief system. Our officers receive annual anti-bias training, and sergeants are tasked with daily monitoring of officer-initiated contacts to identify any unusual patterns that would indicate the presence of bias-based policing. The annual review of our practices, procedures, and training showed no indication of impropriety, and the number of traffic citations written and warnings issued in 2020 is representative of our demographics of our service population. Any questions? Okay, lastly, the annual report not only showcases our strengths, it also identifies areas where we could improve. As I mentioned earlier, we had a 10% spike in theft reports last year, so that's a screenshot of our Raids Online crime mapping, which points that out. So we try to identify specific measurable goals that we strive as a team to achieve. For 2021, our goals include reducing larceny reports by 10%, by increasing patrols at hotspots and coordinating with asset protection teams. Improving our ability to collect and analyze officer-initiated activity by identifying a minimum performance standard and modifying the monthly supervisor report. And lastly, and this also came out of our annual report, Lila Avenue was our top road for auto accidents in 2020, so we want to reduce auto accidents on Lila Avenue by 10%. We're going to do that by deploying speed signs and increasing both stationary and moving patrols. This concludes my report. If you have any questions, as always, you can reach me here at the office by telephone or by email at jmills@milfordohio.org.
Any questions for Chief? Chief, thank you. That was a wonderful report. Thank you for all you've done. Again, it was a heck of a year for you as well. I know that you were put in a situation several times where you didn't make everybody happy.
No.
I know that's always tough. That's not what we do here, so thank you
you.
for all that you do.
I appreciate that.
Team, I'm going to go out of order just a little bit. Chief Baird, your employees are here. If you don't mind, I'll bring you up, and then if you want to go ahead and give your report and your introductions, they don't want to sit in the hall all night long. Hi.
I'll introduce Ashley here momentarily, but before I forget, sitting around the floor next to the table as you walk in are several bottles of hand sanitizer. Kroger donated, I'm guessing it was several hundred, probably close to 1,000 bottles of hand sanitizer to the department, and we've been giving it away. There's no way, I appreciate the effort, and we've used some of it, but it'll harden and go away before we ever use that much hand sanitizer. So we've been handing it to people as they come in the door, guests and visitors and business people and everything else. So please feel free to grab a bottle as you leave tonight.
Thank you.
And once again, the Kroger Company made a huge donation of that in the area, and we truly appreciate that. So I'd like to introduce Ashley Patrick. You can take your face mask down a minute. Ashley is a 2019 magna cum laude graduate of West Clermont High School and Great Oaks High School. Ashley was a student in the junior-senior fire and EMS program. I've talked about that at length along the way, and what a great program it is. And Ashley is just another shining example of the great job Great Oaks does with its junior-senior fire program. Ashley started with us as a cadet firefighter at age 17 while she was at Great Oaks. After graduation from high school, she started paramedic school this past April 2020 at Butler Tech up in Butler County, and graduated just this past January. Completely expected that she would graduate as the valedictorian of her class, and she did.
Oh, wow. Can we just clap?
Great.
As I was speaking with you about firefighter paramedic Smith, when I introduced him a couple of weeks ago, Ashley was the second of the two that were hired at the same time. So she also went from being a part-time firefighter with us, an emergency medical technician within 1 week, graduated from paramedic school and received her Ohio certification, and was offered her first career position at MCFD. And by the way, Ashley is 20 years old.
Oh, my. Forgive me. Did you start as a cadet here? Yes, ma'am. Okay. That's awesome.
So she actually kind of grew up in my neck of the woods in the Bethel area, and on Sugar Tree Road out that direction. I think is your mom still out there? Okay, so but anyway, I want to take a minute to introduce the second of the two new full-time employees with the department. Give you a chance to ask any questions that you had. Thoroughly embarrass both of them. And,
Oh, she has to give a
Great
speech. You
job.
told her that,
oh,
right?
yeah, right.
Oh, no.
Welcome, Ashley.
I'd like to, Lieutenant Nagelhout, so with Captain Jewett's departure, the succession planning and his immediate relief supervisor was Lieutenant Nagelhout, and Lieutenant Nagelhout has assumed the responsibility for the Unit 1 shift at the fire station. As I've talked about, I'm not sure what our long-range plan is right now, but I'm going to tell you that I am perfectly comfortable, and the officer staff is perfectly comfortable with Lieutenant Nagelhout
Come on up to the podium,
filling that role. And so, congratulations are quite frankly in order for Jeff. Even though he was already in the lieutenant's position, it was not his main responsibility to manage his unit day. That fell upon his now departed captain. But he has, Jeff's been around here for a lot of years. The institutional knowledge that Jeff brings about the city, and he's the one we go to. Jeff, where is that? Well, that's the house, two trees past the oak tree, down on whatever street, whatever. But Jeff's doing a very capable job in the position, and I'm really happy, comfortable that if we were going to lose a captain, that this young fella right here was his immediate successor to run things. So.
I think he's been around long enough to earn a nickname, hasn't he?
I've earned that
Mailbox?
nickname a long time
Mr.
ago.
Mailbox?
1999.
So,
Everybody knows Jeff as Mailbox.
That's right.
Even the kids that, when I went to get paint at Lowe's the other night, he goes, "Are you a fireman?" "Yeah." you might not be mailbox, would you? Yeah. I was at Pattison in such and such year. I'm like, yeah, that was me.
Yeah,
You're still doing that? Yep.
that's great.
But I wanted
Well,
to give you a chance, if you have any questions for them, otherwise I've thoroughly embarrassed both of them now, and, but anyway, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Congratulations.
Ashley,
Welcome.
Ashley, aren't you an Amelia Elementary alumni too? Amelia? Did you get the our elementary school, right? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, she wasn't in my class, but she was there.
Nice.
She was an overachiever then, too.
I hope I didn't yell at her for running in the halls or anything.
But anyway, that concludes my report, unless you have any questions. I've been up here long enough.
No, sir. Thank you very much.
very much.
Be safe out there. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to get back in order here. So that takes us to our first public hearing. Assistant City Manager Pam Holbrook. She gave us this information in your packet. If you don't already have that, that was what she, was in your mailbox, or she delivered.
Hand delivered.
Hand delivered. I got lunch. Did you guys get lunch with yours?
No, no.
Hello, everybody.
Pam, I think I need to, do I need to make a motion to open the public hearing?
Yes.
Yeah. So I needed someone to make a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second. Mayor Velardo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Mr. Haskins?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. This is a revision to the Milford South Phase 2 zone change and plan development overlay. Locations 777 Garfield Avenue. The property owner is Milford Schools. The applicant is Paul Shermer with Commercial Development Services. This is 6.4 acres of a 13.59 acre parcel, tax parcel ID 210-729.026P. The existing zoning is R4 multifamily residential district with a planned development overlay. Property to the north is zoned R3 single-family residential. To the east is R3 single-family residential. To the west, R3 single-family residential. And to the south is Valley View, and that's zoned R2 single-family. On September 15th, 2020, City Council approved a request by Paul Shermer to rezone 6.4 acres from R2 single-family to R4 multifamily residential with a planned development overlay to a portion of the tax parcel ID. The initial plan approval included 6 townhomes and 7 duplexes for a total of 20 dwelling units. The revised plan that you are reviewing tonight consists of 6 townhomes and 14 single-family homes for a total of 20 dwelling units. After receiving the Planning Commission recommendation, the City Council will hold a public hearing. Following the public hearing and after reviewing the Planning Commission's recommendation, Council shall vote on the proposal. The Council may overrule the Planning Commission recommendation by a 2/3 vote of the full membership of the Council. If the Council approves the revision to the site plan, the applicant will be required to submit a final development plan to Planning Commission for review and approval. The final development plan will include final grading plans, site plans, elevation, floor plans, and a detailed landscaping plan. The applicant has 1 year to begin construction once a final development plan is approved. Otherwise, the plan becomes void. Planning Commission held a public hearing on February 10th, 2021 to review the request. The Commission voted to recommend approval of the revision by a vote of 4-0. Single-family dwelling units are allowed in the R4 zoning district, and the use appears to be compatible with the surrounding properties. Tim Casto, the city engineer, reviewed the plan revisions. He noted that the change to detached single-family housing has minorly reduced the amount of impervious area on the project, so there is no substantial change in the stormwater. They are still proposing to maintain the direction of water flow as it is currently draining to the downstream neighboring property. It does not appear that the developer has had any further conversations with Valley View about rerouting the outlet across Garfield. Fire, water, and wastewater departments had no additional comments. And I just wanted to add, that was, the stormwater was brought up. That was really, it's been the most talked about issue through this whole project. And keep in mind that what they've submitted to date is related, it's a beginning of a stormwater plan. Once they get through and start moving forward towards the final development plan, they will have to provide calculations and construction documents as it relates to the whole project. So just want to make it clear that more detailed information will continue to come forward as they get ready to go before Planning Commission. Otherwise, the use seemed very appropriate for the surrounding area. It seems to fit in. I've had a number of phone calls from people asking they'd rather see a single family, so I think this kind of fits in with maybe what the market is really looking for at this time. Staff supports the applicant's request to revise the Phase 2 Milford South site plan with the following 16 conditions approved by City Council on September 15, 2020. These are the exact same 16 conditions that you all approved that were a part of the ordinance previously. City approval contingent on review and approval by the city engineer and other local, state, and federal agencies. Provide a stormwater maintenance plan before approval of final plat. City recommends that the stormwater runoff be an outlet to Garfield Avenue south side if feasible at the developer's expense. The private drive width will be the same as the end of the drive. All building materials to be reviewed and approved by Planning Commission. Install sidewalks per city specs along Garfield Avenue in the right-of-way after completing Phase 2. Provide Planning Commission with a copy of the HOA's covenants and restrictions for review during the final plan review. The covenants and restrictions should be recorded along with the final development plan in the office of the county recorder. Developer is to provide a before development and after development impervious calculation. WMSC permit is required before grading can begin. A minimum 20-foot environmental easement according to Exhibit 1, Sheet 6 is required along the perimeter of the parcel. And each lot owner and HOA are responsible for preserving the environmental quality of the easement area. Building construction or indiscriminate cutting of live trees or other vegetation would not be permitted within this area without the prior consent of the city manager or designee. Developer to comply with all bonds and sureties before final plat approval. The drainage easement area of each lot shall be maintained continuously by the lot owner and the HOA. Within the easements, no structure, planting, fencing, culvert, or other materials shall be placed or permitted to remain, which may obstruct, retard, or divert the flow through the water courses. The HOA will be responsible for inspection and maintenance associated with the stormwater detention retention basins. Submit stormwater maintenance plan and access easements for drainage ways and basins, and remove the 30-inch pipe adjacent to the eastern property line. And I'm sure that list will probably grow by the time it gets to the final development plan. When we took Riverwalk through this process, I think when it was all said and done, there were over 30 conditions, so that, you know, the list gets longer, the more detailed the plans are as they come through. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I believe Paul Shermer is here and has a presentation for you as well.
Anybody have any questions for staff?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm newer on council, so just to refresh my memory, how long has this project been going back and forth between Planning Commission and the developer?
This particular developer submitted in 2019, I believe. Is that correct? 2019?
Yeah, for Phase 1.
Phase 1, yeah. 2019.
And did and before we voted on changing the zoning, was there a plan for single-family houses here originally, or was this just blank?
No, Phase 2 was, they originally brought forward a preliminary subdivision sketch plan for Phase 1. That is Phase 1. That's the 20 single-family homes. This half of the property was vacant, there was no plan. They weren't sure what they were going to do with the second half.
Until they proposed us changing
Yes,
the... Okay.
and that was in 2019.
Okay.
Proposed for zone change was 2020.
Was 20, okay, yeah. 2019 was the subdivision, the 20 single-family lots, and then 2020 was the zone change.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing. And then council, on top of that, rezoned the property in 2018. So this property has been before you all several times.
Anybody else have questions for staff? Mr. Shermer, would you like to present? Good evening.
Hi. Thanks, Pam, for that introduction. That was pretty detailed and a good recap as far as where we are. You need my name, right? So I'll state my name, Paul Shermer.
Go right ahead, yes.
There we go.
Yeah.
I've been stuck with formalities like that before. So anyway, just to recap some of the changes, and I'm going to take the mic over because I don't know how to operate it from here. So everybody knows where the property is, and I'm just going to scroll right down to the development itself. This is the previously approved plan. Shows the phase 1 single families over here, the adaptive reuse of the school building into 6 townhouse units on the front, and then over to the side, it depicts the duplex units as originally proposed. This is just an overall site plan of what was previously approved. Again, 20 single-family lots, the school adaptive reuse, and then the 14 duplex units off to the right. Basically, what we're proposing tonight is to take those duplex units and basically separate those units out so that they end up being single-family units instead of duplex units. Still, we are oriented them towards an empty nester product, so we're still looking at a complete HOA that maintains all the landscape, and so they could continue to be lock and leave type of residences where it's fully maintained, at least on the exterior. But now you've got an individual homeowner for each structure that could be responsible for the upkeep and maintenance of that specific structure. Other changes that were implemented with this particular change was that since these units are slightly different in dimension, we were able to push the entire thing towards the hillside just a little bit, which resulted in about 20 additional feet of green space over in this area. Another change is that in order to maintain the same number of units, we're actually a little bit closer by, I want to say, about 20 feet closer to Garfield than we originally were. So those are two main changes that we had. As far as the other, as Pam had mentioned, density is the same. And as far as the house itself, this is a house by Ashford Homes. We're talking to Ashford about coming into the development. So this is a 40-foot wide by 65-foot deep house, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, and open floor plan. So it works really well for that particular site. And then as far as the rest of the development goes, all would stay the same. So, and just as Pam had mentioned, with the approval tonight, all the same standards with the original approval stand. All the conditions that she cited, all the stormwater is pretty much the same. We're still looking at detention ponds, detention pond here, detention here, detention here, detention here. So that's pretty much the development. As far as status goes, we're looking to close on the property, start construction within the next couple of months. Looking to start lot deliveries. Right now we're shooting for the end of summer to deliver lots to builders.
Okay, is that all you have?
That's all I've got, unless you've got any additional questions.
Any questions?
Stan is with me here if you have any technical questions about stormwater or the like.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Is all the homes to the left there, they're going to be owned by the fee, the property owner's going to own the fee. The green space, is that going to be retained by the HOA?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have questions for the applicant? Okay, at this time, I'll open up to public questions or comments. Does anybody in the audience have a question for the staff or the applicant? Thank you, Paul.
All right.
Okay, there being none. Entertain a motion? Does someone want to make a motion in favor of?
I'll make a motion to approve the change in the
Make a motion to approve the revision of Milford
Revision.
South Phase 2 zone change
planned development overlay.
with staff recommendations?
Yes, with the staff recommendations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Velardo?
Yes.
Ms. Russell?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Haskins?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shermer.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, I now just need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Haskins?
Yes.
Ms. Velardo?
Yes.
Ms. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
I feel like we've been here for a while, we're only halfway
I know.
through the
I was gonna
agenda.
say, we're still at the top of the agenda.
Okay, so that takes us to proceedings. Has everyone had a chance to go over the proceedings from the February the 16th council meeting? Any questions, comments, changes? Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Ms. Velardo?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Haskins?
Yes.
Has everyone had a chance to look at the January financial report? I just need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Haskins?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Velardo?
Yes. Okay. This takes us to our public comment section. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address council? Now would be your time. Donna? If you wouldn't mind just coming up to the podium and stating your name and address for the record, please.
Donna Lucky, 910 Wallace.
Good evening.
Thank you. I saw in the preliminary agenda that there was going to be a discussion regarding rescinding the people having to remove snow and ice from their sidewalks. And probably everybody knows Larry and I walk every single sidewalk in all of Milford. And if we're going to make this a walkable community, like Mr. Doss indicated, it sure makes it awfully hard. And I understand the implications of the state of Ohio saying, if you've attempted to clear it and someone gets hurt, it's now your legal responsibility. That all makes sense. Until you're out there trying to walk, and now you're having to walk out in the street, which of course isn't real safe either. So I don't know what the solution is, other than I guess we just have to agree to disagree.
I appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Is there anybody else? Okay. If there are none, then we'll move into our standing committee reports, beginning with Administrative Services. Vice Mayor Evans.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I called the meeting to order on February 25th at 5 o'clock. Present were myself, Sandy Russell, and Kim Chamberlain, and staff Michael Doss and Jackie Bain. We approved the proceedings from the January 13th meeting. Our first topic was the Fifth Third Bank Account Authorization for JED 7. Mr. Doss discussed information with the committee regarding new JED 7 bank accounts. Staff recommends a new Fifth Third Bank Mobile Fund Saving Account for JED 7. Fifth Third requires that council pass a resolution to designate the bank as an authorized depository and to name authorized persons on all accounts. The following are listed as authorized persons for purposes of bank account activity: Michael Doss, City Manager; Pat Wortham, Finance Director; Tina Kern, Assistant Finance Director. The committee agreed to make a recommendation for the law director to draft an ordinance authorizing the City of Milford to enter into account resolutions certificate for treasury management services with Fifth Third Bank in accordance with the attached Fifth Third document entitled account resolution certificate for Treasury Management Services for Joint Economic Development District 7, naming authorized personas as Michael Doss, City Manager, Pat Worthland, Finance Director, and Tina Kern, Assistant Finance Director.
Second.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Velardo?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Haskins?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
And the next topic of discussion was rescinding Section 911.05 of the Milford Codified Ordinances regarding removal of ice and snow from sidewalks. Mr. Doss presented information that resulted from the last city council meeting and discussion regarding rescinding Section 911.05 of the Milford Codified Ordinances regarding removal of ice and snow from sidewalks on private properties and city properties. Mr. Doss explained that the first priority after a snowfall, for staff anyway, is to make sure that the roads are clear enough for public safety to get through, then streets are opened up for passable traffic and cleaned up. Moving forward, staff will focus more on sidewalks on downtown area, city-owned sidewalks downtown area where there's more pedestrian traffic. Ms. Chamberlain did a lot of research on what other communities were doing for snow and ice removal. She found that many cities do suggest to the residents to be a good neighbor, and also suggested information from the Ohio Committee for Severe Weather Awareness, which promotes winter safety tips. Many municipalities have their snow ordinance information posted on their website, so residents are aware of the information for snow removal in the city. It could be listed like by areas of priority within the city, and publicize a winter reminder to property owners and motorists on our website, which will help maintain community responsibilities during the winter season and help encourage certain practices. We also discussed, I guess we discussed even at the last council meeting, like the problem with the ordinance was, I guess, enforcement partly, and the fine of $100 for people that could not shovel. We're hoping maybe that just encouraging the good neighbor philosophy is and encouraging people to still shovel their sidewalks. But again, we really had no way to enforce the finding of people. So the committee did agree to rescind the ordinance, or recommend to rescind the ordinance, with an outreach to businesses and residents regarding awareness and recommending a good neighbor policy. So the committee agreed to recommend that the law director draft an ordinance rescinding Section 911.05 of the Milford Codified Ordinances regarding removal of ice and snow from sidewalks.
Second.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Ms. Velardo?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Haskins?
Yes.
Ms. Russell?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
With no further business, we adjourned at 5:17.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Evans. Mr. Doss, City Manager's report.
Thank you. Just a couple of updates for council and the public this evening. Wallace Water Tower funding update. The city is working with Brandstater Carroll to submit nominations for funding from the Water Supply Revolving Loan Account and the Ohio Water Development Authority. Just want to remind council that those nominations will not commit the city to any city funds at this time, but it does put us in a project pipeline and puts us on notice with the state of Ohio for future funding. So when we submit that nomination application, they will review that along with other projects in the state of Ohio, kind of rank them a little bit and tell us if it's worth our while to go after funding, essentially. That nomination application will be submitted to WSRLA by the end of this week. Hopefully we'll know something in the coming months. Pavement management study update. That pavement management study, which was approved by council, the last council meeting is scheduled to commence on March the 15th, so just a few weeks away. It'll take approximately 2 months to complete. Once completed, the city will have a detailed analysis and ranking regarding the conditions of asphalt, curbs, and catch basins for all streets and roads in Milford. The results of the study will assist the Public Works Department with future roadway improvement planning, priority project placement, and capital budgeting and public finance. If you'll recall, in my State of the City last month, these were two priorities of projects that we wanted to work on and hopefully accomplish in 2021, and they're both very critically important to the future of the city. Obviously, establishing a water tower will go for many generations. And also the pavement management study is a study that the city can utilize for decades. Standing committee meetings, there are none scheduled at this time, but just to put the Public Services Committee on notice, probably be getting a solicitation from me tomorrow for a meeting next week for some agenda items there as we crank up business for our Public Works Department as we're approaching the springtime. Reminders also that March the 10th is a Planning Commission meeting. That's at 6 o'clock p.m. And on March the 16th is our next regularly scheduled City Council meeting at 7 o'clock.
Speaking of ratcheting up businesses, do you want to address events that we have on the books now in light of the recent change in policy?
We do. I think I mentioned a couple at our last council meeting. April the 24th will be our Shred Day. And we will have more information on our website and our Facebook page with the times for that. That'll be held here at City Hall. We are meeting with Frontiers Day. I believe they actually just put a little bit of release out on Facebook just a few minutes ago. They're going to have Frontier Days this year. It's going to be a little different. We're working with them on possibly having a parade this year, a socially distant parade, and also some of the events that people have come to know and love with Frontier Days. Again, a lot of this will be dependent upon state guidelines and what's lifted and what still remains. We do have Sparks in the Park. That's scheduled for July the 2nd. That's going to be a little different as well. We cut the time back, so it'll be from 8 to 10 o'clock, so 8 p. to 10 p. with fireworks being let off at 10 o'clock p.m. We will have a band performance there, but we will have the food vendors there. I may work with the fire department to have water and soda and some of those items as well. Again, all of that will be contingent upon state guidelines as well. There is also talk of an Oktoberfest with the Little Miami Brewing Company, so we are working on that. Although most Oktoberfest are in September, we're actually looking at an Oktoberfest. So staff and I are meeting with them tomorrow, I believe, to discuss the potential for an Oktoberfest. Art Affair is on for this year as well. So we are working with Susan Villardo and the folks at Art Affair on how we logistically schedule that and how that's going to look as well. So really in 2020, again, we're trying to get back to some normalcy with some of these events, although they'll be a little different than I think folks in Milford are used to. Certainly they'll come back strong in 2022. But again, we're hoping that those events can move forward. And again, as things hopefully are lifted with some of the restrictions, maybe we can get back to those events, maybe sooner than later, hopefully, especially those ones as we get into the fall season.
And the Memorial Day Committee is meeting to try to put something together for Memorial Day as well.
Correct.
So, yeah. Slowly but surely, we're getting there. Thank you, Mr. Doss.
Welcome.
Chief Mills.
I do not have my February report completed yet, but I did want to announce that we're hoping to have our annual awards ceremony at the next council meeting on the 16th, and we're also hoping to swear in our new officer at the first council meeting in April. We've extended a conditional offer. I don't want to give any more details than that just yet, but we have identified a candidate and extended a conditional offer, hoping to have him sworn in at the first council meeting in April.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are you good, Chief? Okay, so that takes us to council comments. Anybody have any comments they want to share?
I just want to, was it Donna who spoke?
Yes.
I just want to thank you for coming up here. We talked about it last meeting. It is a tricky one. It does make sense that we all agree it's hard to enforce. But I do feel your sentiment. It is very frustrating and annoying, especially for our citizens who do walk daily, to see the disregard from some of the citizens. So I just want to thank you and acknowledge your comments. And then I also just wanted to say, the citizens should be aware, but we're going to talk more and more about this water tower. And so I just think as a city, as long as we can get ahead, making people understand the costs involved with that, as well as the potential probably water rates and other things going up, just so it's clear from the start so we're not all the way down this and people all of a sudden are surprised why things are going to cost more.
It's a necessary evil, right?
Exactly.
We got to do it. I just want to share a couple things. Pam, oh, I'm sorry.
Quick question I asked.
Come up to the podium.
Donna Lucky, 910 Wallace. It's about the water tower, which is almost in our front yard. Kind of what's the time frame, and is there anything down the road that we should be concerned about?
We will definitely do a good job of keeping the neighbors that are going to be involved in that site, but right now, we're scraping through with the funding process, trying to get the grants and the loans and figuring how we're going to pay for it in the construction. So we are in very beginning stages of this huge project. So that information will be forthcoming from this point on, probably for every meeting as we progress.
4 or 5 years?
Oh, I don't think it's going to be that long.
We'll probably spend a good part of 2021 securing funding and financing for that. And then once we get that in place, once we put all the bids out, you're looking at roughly a year to fabricate a tower. So that's going to pretty much wipe out 2022. So we'll probably start erecting the tower probably in 2023.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. So Pam Holbrook, Michael Doss, and myself were invited by the chamber members to take a tour of True Hotel. That is a very nice hotel. It's got a very hip, young, current vibe to it. The technology is state of the art. You know, there's no such thing as keys anymore. You know, everything's on your phone and everything's Wi-Fi. It's just, it's a really nice hotel. I think it's going to do very well. I wish them the best. It should be open and online here, I think, in a couple of weeks. Isn't that what they said?
Yeah, correct.
So we wish them the best. Michael and I also attended a Clermont County Mayor's Association meeting. I go to these every month, and I actually brought Michael with me this time because we're talking about local government funds. And as you know, right now, we've been kind of squeezed out of that calculation. So I don't know that there's anything that we can do right now to get us our money back the way that we were receiving it before, but we're trying to be good neighbors of our community and our neighboring communities to help them along so that at some point we get back to some kind of fairness. Because right now, it's just, there are some communities that are just receiving exponentially big portions of the pie, and it's just not right. The formula is just not correct formula. So we're working on that. Additionally, Michael and I were on a Zoom this morning with the folks from Sibsey Klein. Milford resident Kathy Doherty and her husband invited Michael and I a couple weeks ago to get on a Zoom with about 34 of real estate agents to promote Milford. They wanted to know everything that was going on within the city and the vitality of it, and it was fun to get to spend 30 minutes doing what we love to do and plug Milford. But most importantly, Ms. Chamberlain brought this to my attention. I don't know if you received this magazine, but it's a feature, it's produced by Comey and Shepard, and this author, I meant to pull his name, hold on a second, it's worth finding out here. Jack Heffron, we owe him a bit of gratitude. So lots of communities are highlighted in this magazine, but he did Milford super proud. As you open it up, we are on, there's Clermont right there. And then as you go through it, we didn't just get one page. We have several pages. The downtown shops, Padrino, the governor, the brewery. Look at that fun picture. I don't know what event that was. Maybe Chrome.
Looks
Was
like
it Art Affair?
yeah.
Art Fair?
Looks like Art Affair.
Yeah, the bike trail. And then, well, we're not done. As you go back, even more about the city of Milford. St. Andrews is right there. I don't, Jack, you did a wonderful job on this, promoting our town that we're very proud of. So if you haven't had a chance to pick this up, I don't know where you can get it besides Comey and Shepard. But it is, he really did a great job on that. So thank you for that. And that is all I have. Does anybody else have anything? Okay, so let's wrap this meeting up with ordinances and resolutions. Mr. Manier, ordinance 2021-76.
Before I read that, I just want to reiterate what,
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Manier, excuse me. We need to make a motion to go into exec session.
I don't have the
Are
number.
we doing that tonight or no?
I didn't think so.
Oh, good.
We're fine. Okay.
Good.
I just want to reiterate what I went over last time. I know you all heard it, but for those people who might be listening or watching, new to the topic, I don't know if everybody knows that I'm the prosecuting attorney in Milford, and I would have to prosecute violations of the ordinance regarding snow and ice removal. And I've never done that. I've never had one come to court, and just to give you a little perspective, Mr. Doss was 1 year old when I became city's law director.
How long have you been doing that?
Figure out how old he is and then
Right.
add one. And, you know, it's my discretion, well, it's actually the discretion of me coupled with the police department as to citations we write. And discretion is different from discrimination. You can exercise discretion as long as you don't discriminate. So as a practical, there's practical difficulties in enforcing the ordinance anyway, because like I said last time we met, you'd have to have a complaint, and that's how we deal with these things upon complaint. We just don't have the manpower or personnel to go driving around town looking for situations like this, so we operate on a complaint basis. The police officer would show up 9 times out of 10, unless that person is stubborn, AKA recalcitrant.
Point.
New vocabulary
You got a
word.
point for that.
Just showing
I
off
can only hear
now.
1 point.
I'm just showing off now. So unless that person's stubborn, he's going to get a warning. He or she's going to get a warning. They won't go to court for 2 weeks. They could ask for a continuance. We come back another 2 weeks, and that's going to be a month to 6 weeks after the problem. So there's practical difficulties when enforcing it anyway. Even if we brought somebody to court, it's punitive. I can't see charging somebody $100 plus court costs, which are $85, leaving here $185 because they didn't clean their ice and snow, unless they were stubborn. And there's other ways to handle those situations when people are continuously ignoring warnings or not helping their fellow citizens. I think it's good that we develop a good neighbor policy. Be a good neighbor, go out and do your own sidewalks. If you know somebody's infirm or elderly that lives next to you or a couple doors down, offer to do their sidewalks. So I don't like to have laws on the books, as I discussed before, that we're not going to enforce. Now, if it comes that, you know, we can draw up another ordinance at some point. But there are ways that I can deal with issues where somebody is perennially and consistently ignoring doing their sidewalk. I think this last time you can, I don't know how long it's been since we had that much snow in such a short period of time.
On the ground for so long.
Yeah, it's been, what, 5 or 10 years? So it doesn't happen that frequently. So anyway, that's my explanation of why I think it should be rescinded. Is there any questions?
No, sir.
Makes sense.
Ordinance 2021-76, an ordinance rescinding section 911.05 of the Milford Codified Ordinances regarding removal of ice and snow from sidewalks. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the Municipality of Milford, Section 1. The Council of the City of Milford hereby rescinds Section 911.05 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Milford regarding the removal of ice and snow from sidewalks. Section 2, this ordinance shall amend and supersede any ordinance, resolution, rule, or regulation which is inconsistent herewith. Section 3, pursuant to and in accordance with Section 12.05 of the Milford City Charter, this ordinance should become effective immediately upon its passage by City Council.
Move to suspend the rules and read by title only.
Second.
Ms. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Haskins?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Velardo?
Yes.
Ordinance 2021-76, an ordinance rescinding Section 911.05 of the Milford Codified Ordinances regarding removal of ice and snow from sidewalks.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Ms. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. Haskins?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Ms. Velardo?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ordinance 2021-77, an ordinance authorizing City of Milford to enter into the account resolution certificate for Treasury Management Services with the Fifth Third Bank. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the Municipality of Milford, Section 1. The Council of the City of Milford hereby authorizes the city manager to enter into and execute the attached hereto and fully incorporated herein pursuant to Section 12.03, the Milford City Charter, the account resolution certificate for treasury management services with the Fifth Third Bank. The Fifth Third Bank is designated as the authorized depository, and Michael Doss, Milford City Manager, Pat Worthland, Milford Finance Director, and Tina Kern, Assistant to the Finance Director, are hereby expressly named as authorized persons for the purposes of bank account activity. Section 2, pursuant to, in accordance with Section 12.05, the Milford City Charter, this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its passage by City Council.
Move to suspend the rules and read by title only.
Second.
Mr. Haskins?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Velardo?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Russell?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Ordinance 2021-77, an ordinance authorizing the City of Milford to enter into the account resolution certificate for treasury management services with the Fifth Third Bank.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Ms. Velardo?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Haskins?
All right. If nobody has anything further, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Velardo?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Mr. Haskins?
All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching today. Keep wearing those masks. Hang in there. We've got a little bit longer to go before we completely come out and see the light of day. So thank you for all that you do, and have a wonderful evening.